kind of thing. We're looking at this interaction here. And we're looking at it as a function of pH. So the same thing. Now, what do you think this curve would look like? Similar? Yeah, could be. And all that means is what? It means that for every protein-ligand interaction, there is again probably some kind of optimal pH for that interaction. And all that says is, you have to realize this, when we say there's an optimal pH, that means that under that pH, the affinity is the highest. That's what we're saying. The affinity is the highest. Because that's what we're changing by changing pH and temperatures, our affinities. So the affinity for this particular interaction, whatever it is the highest at that pH. Now, while this is the shape of the curve, generally there's an optimal. With regard to pH, there's drastically different places where this curve exists on the pH scale. Most body fluids are slightly basic. Like blood plasma, for example, 7.3, 7.4. So the enzymes that function in interstitial fluid and blood plasma probably have the optimal somewhere around 7.3, 7.4. And if you get too acidic this way, you change the affinity because you are denaturing the protein. If you increase the pH this way, you get too basic, you decrease the affinity, again, because you are changing the affinity of the protein by denaturing. And under extreme pHs, it's completely denatured, that is, back to its primary structure. So this is all about denaturing on extremes here. So the reason that you fall off on each end here is because you are denaturing the protein there. Now, where that peak is depends on what protein we're talking about. If this is an enzyme that functions in the stomach, like pepsin. Pepsin is a digestive enzyme that helps us begin to break down protein in the stomach. Its pH optimal is going to be shifted way to the left, acidic, right? Somewhere down around 1.5 to 2. And it might work well under a broad array of acidic pHs. Like it might function well from pHs of 1 to 4, but anything above 4, it's not going to work. Anything below 1 or something like that, it's not, which, by the way, you would dissolve your stomach if you got much below 1 anyhow, so it would be pointless. It's not going to work that well either. Right? So where that peak is for pH depends. If we're talking about an enzyme that functions, that is being secreted in pancreatic juice, its optimal pH might be slightly basic, like 8 or something, and it would be shifted. It would probably be rare, so you can have a broad top here, but it would probably be rare to see 2 peaks. I'm not saying it can't happen, but to have an optimal here, and then decrease, and then another optimal. Honestly, there probably are examples, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but that would be uncommon, right? Because those are 2 drastically different environments, right? It's not within a range that would be considered normal. So if we look at how these proteins interact and bind to their ligands, their substrates, if you will, we have to consider, this interaction here, their specificity, affinity, competition, and saturation. And we have to realize that there is an effect of the concentration of the protein, more reaction. There's an effect of the concentration of the ligand, more interaction to a point, the point of saturation, where all of these proteins are interacting. They're busy. Right? And we also have to know that this physical environment that these things work in, the folding, their 3-dimensional shape, is dependent upon a particular external environment. And if you change the temperature from its optimal, lower the temperature, there's less energy, molecules move around slower, so you get less interaction. Increase the temperature, you're changing the active site due to denaturation and folding, and the interaction gets less there. So we have an optimal temperature. pH, same, right? pH, this folding occurs under a very particular ionic environment. And if you change the concentration of hydrogen ions you're changing the charge around this protein, it will fold differently. And that, under acidic conditions, can cause denaturation, and under basic conditions can cause denaturation. What's different here is where this peak exists. Just depends. We'd say most things slightly, around neutral is good, but not always. It really depends. Depends on what